but what I was just saying is this is a subject that I've wanted to talk about, been very reluctant to do so, because the truth is that I am opposed to nothing. This act contends with nothing. The fact is that no matter what the case is of the usefulness or uselessness of the spiritual teachings and the spiritual aspiration, nothing needs to be done about them. There's no need to in order to have this simple act of inward-looking work, does not require you to abandon those understandings or to abandon those beliefs. Those beliefs and understandings that are false and conducive to reactive behaviors and so forth, they'll go on their own. And I really am not. I want to contend with nothing. But I do want to talk about this because of the fact that I came from this. That's simply the case. I came from a spiritual practice, from a long-term spiritual aspiration. So they tell us this. They tell us what it's like to be free. And they do this not because they wish to withhold from us the joy of human life, but because they don't know how to say it any differently. I really can relate to that, how hard it is to say it any differently. So, over all these thousands of years, some people, and like the act that brings an end to it, I suspect, is always the same. The trigger that causes the individual human consciousness to take that act can be quite a few, and mostly just kind of accidental in the course of trying to do something else. Like with me, I didn't know what I was doing. When I embarked upon the desire to free myself of hope, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea how to go about it. I had nothing whatsoever except a desire to show that Ramana's act and the choice of Ramana was almost just a crapshoot. To show that Ramana's act couldn't produce anything, and therefore to find what Ramana's act was. But they tell us what it feels like, and that really rings true to us when we start speaking in the vernacular of the spiritual understanding. The promises that seem to be contained in there ring true to us. We know it's true that if we weren't resistant, that our resistance is actually stupid. We know that. Somewhere inside we know that. We know it's true that if we could rid ourselves of clinging and resistance and antagonism and all of that if we could be finished with that, if we could be finished with denial, if we could be finished with all of that, we know that we would be safe and secure and well at last. We know that. It rings true. And when I speak about the outcome, the results of the looking, when I speak about it, I cannot speak about the results except in a way that resonates with something spiritual that's been said. It's impossible for me to speak about what it's like to live without the fear, without resonating with something within the body of spiritual understanding. It's just not possible for that to happen. And I know that to be the case. And so that I find it, for me, it's essential in order to get the most out of what I have to offer it's essential to put down the spiritual books when you're with me, to put down the spiritual understandings when you're with me. I really understand clearly the drawl of them and the clarity of them and the essential underlying truth of them, but they are a snare and a delusion when you're actually seeking an end to the problem. It's not their fault. It's just the case. It's not the fault of the spiritual teachers. It's just the case. And that's why I want to make it clear that what I'm doing is not a spiritual teaching. I really want there to be no confusion there, because that confusion just prolongs the healing process. That the looking for signs that come from your prior spiritual understandings as a way to know that you're finally on the right track, looking for those things are going to lead you in the wrong direction. There's nothing special about the natural state. There's no specialness to it. We're seeking specialness in order to escape from what appears to be a life that's out to swallow us up. There's nothing special about the natural state. What's special about it is the absence of any distance whatsoever between you and the endlessly arriving phenomena that constitute your life, the content of your life. That's what happens. The fear of that life departs, and what life is as a result of that is, well, what it's always been. And what happens to you is not transcendence and not transformation. There's no transcendence or transformation really available to you. What happens to you is sanity. The mind, the psychological apparatus that is the shape of your personality, the way in which your person faces the world, goes sane. That's truly it. And sanity reveals my God, why would anybody ever want anything other than to be an ordinary human being, living an ordinary human life? What in the world could be better than this? Really? Drama, action, hot, cold, pleasure, pain, problems, understanding, solutions, things to do, things to think about, things to figure out, things to accomplish, accomplishments, failures. Who could want more than this? What in the world could be more than a human life, as far as a creature is concerned? And that's what's seen. The ache for transcendence vanishes. Trust me, it just vanishes. The love affair with advanced spiritual understandings having to do with emptiness and inexistence and so forth and so on, vanishes. I mean, really, just vanishes. The interest in the entire world of spiritual aspiration and spiritual utterance vanishes. It's not like you say, okay, well, I'm not going to read any more spiritual books. That's what I want you to do now. Say, I'm not going to read any more spiritual books. But it's not like that. It's just that when all is said and done, they're not very interesting when you're in the life. You know, they're just not very interesting. They're only interesting when you're spinning in this torment trying to escape from life. Sitcoms are more interesting. At least they're, human beings, right? Having human activities. So, I love the spiritual teachings, although they don't interest me anymore. I am infinitely grateful for having stumbled upon those ancient wisdom teachings, which by their very inability to satisfy me and their actual kind of rejection of me led me to this wonder of natural human existence. I used to think there would be, I used to read, you know, there's a spiritual book, actually it's a huge thing. We don't even have 1% of it. We don't have 1% of it translated into English at this time anyway, called Yoga Vasisthara. And it's this vast, it's like the, what is that other one they have, the Amitabha? Something, I can't remember the name of these things anymore. But it's called Yoga Vasisthara. It's this vast, endless, meandering, nonsensical adventure story of human life, in which nothing makes sense, in which things just turn into other things without any warning whatsoever, and it's full of wonder. It's a wonderland. And I used to read Yoga Vasisthara, and I used to just love it. Oh my God! If only people could just see this. Well, it doesn't have much interest in me anymore. You're of interest to me. Life is of interest to me. And the artistic representation of life as a teaching doesn't interest me. I don't need an artistic representation of life. I have life. I am life, as are you.